All right, let's quiet down. The floor is yours.
My name is Evan Ramos.
I'm Matt Hoffman.
And we are the Class++ team working on a new course registration system schedule build. The current registration system has a couple of problems that we aim to solve with our new system. First of all, there are a myriad of different screens and forms that the user has to go through in order to build a schedule. When you do go through these, you are also often overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information to look through, such as times and class locations and credit hours. And in addition, the functionality that the system gives to you, while we like some stuff like this week at a glance, there's room for improvement. For example, this class, Engineering 198 Projects, is 2 hours from 6:30 to 8:20, but it only shows up as a 1 hour block from 6 to 7. So the current system can have improvements.
Basically what we want to do is we want to cut down the system and streamline the process. So basically this is the basic flow chart of how you use our new system. What you do is you build a list of the classes you need. You don't have to choose specific sections or anything, just put the list of classes in. And then you proceed and it brings you to a calendar where you can sort of more easily organize your classes into sections, and it helps you make them fit together better.
Our restrictions really started off with our own abilities with the coding. We had to be able to build those abilities in all of these languages here so that we could make each language compatible with each other to build our site. Also, the time frame to just develop the site in general, due to the complex nature of it, was going to be a time crunch.
Due to the diversity of the different skills in the project, different skill sets, and the small amount of time, we really had to delegate work. We did this pretty logically. We had a front-end team, we had a front-end section, a back-end section. Front-end was more myself and Morgan, back-end was more Evan and Anthony. More individually, I worked on I mostly worked on the JavaScript. Morgan did most of her work in the HTML, CSS. Anthony did most of his work with database and XML parsing. Anthony did a lot of work with the networking and JavaScript and a lot of the more XML work. Throughout the project, we ran into a lot of unexpected issues that we had to work out. For example, as it turns out, so we needed to pull the web page and the XML information out of two separate places. But as it turns out, just the way that web security works, you are really not allowed to do that. So we had to set up a PHP web server that would pull the XML information out and and basically proxy it to the client in order for web security to actually allow that. We also found that there was tons of just random quirks with the data and inconsistencies. Classes that didn't have start times and end times, there would just be a range. We also found tons of issues with browser compatibility that Anthony was mostly working with. And then we also had developed an issue with the way the work was divided, where we ended up with a front-end system and a back-end system that was developing quickly, somewhat independently, and we had and there were some problems with actually getting those two merged together.
When it comes to our budget, we were able to make the entire site without spending a dime. We were able to use our own resources, as in our laptops, the internet, and then just free software that we found online. And because we were able to do that, and for the development stage, being able to implement it is also going to be free.
All right, so basically over the course of the 8 weeks, we've written about 7,000 lines of code. We spent our first week just our first couple weeks forming our groups and coming up with the ideas for how we're going to improve the system. After that, we got a hold of the database, which was actually publicly available in an XML format, which helped us out a lot. Then we spent the next couple weeks working on basic functionality, and like Matt said, we started working with front end and back end independently. After that, we worked on making it so that they'd be more portable and easier to combine. Then we combined it and finalized it and made sure that everything worked.
If we could stay on this slide, during the midterm, we had this is the example of the two separate parallel projects that we're working on. On the top left, you can see the site layout and design aspect, both with how things are placed on the page, that sort of basic stuff. But also features like overlays, transitions, drag and drop functionality, and fades. On the lower right, you can see sort of the functional backbone that Anthony and I were working on, which deals with things like retrieving, organizing, and using the XML database that's publicly available, and then allowing you to select courses via either drag and drop or a keyword search, and grouping the sections together in order to put it into a schedule system.
All right, so this is was kind of later after midterm. We came up with sort of this kind of calendar design where you would be able to have a list of classes and then a calendar you'd be able to put classes onto. As it turns out, we can't possibly show like all the different flowcharts of code that went into this because this is just one function, like one probably like 30-line function out of, as I said, we said like 7,000 lines of code. Just this right here.
This is basically just more of our flowcharts of a couple functions. This one has more to do with like reading from the XML, just going into the different sections for classes, checking if data exists, and using it if it does.
All right, so as far as testing the results goes, we ended up making like a whole myriad of different mock-ups before we came up with like the design that you saw previously. Coding itself is essentially an endless cycle of development and testing. So far, what we found with the site that we've come up with is that what's been beneficial is that you can schedule, manual scheduling is easier. The calendar, we think, is like a really nice interface, and it's a more guided, streamlined experience. Unfortunately, we had tons of problems with browser compatibility, and not all of our ideas were able to be implemented due to time constraints. And then next, we're going to do a demonstration of the site. All right, so far, when you open up the site, this is like the front page that you are presented with. You have some basic like instructions on how to use this site. So first off, you would basically build a list of classes you want to add. So like for here, we would select let's do 2013 summer, and then continue on. And then right here, this is like a more condensed version. It's all on the same page. It's not redirecting from place to place.
This is the functional backbone as it's been integrated into the front end. As you can see, there are different tiers, T-I-E-R-S, of systems where we have for the calendar year and the term. And then you go into subject or department course, which you can automatically generate, or a specific section. For example, using the keyword search, you can type in this class, ENG 198 PRJ, hit query, and it'll all be filled in, and you can proceed to click one of the buttons, and it will be, that's a group of the section, and then it's added to your list.
And we can even see more information about it. It'll pull this all off of the online database, so you can read more about the class, see how many credits are currently enrolled in up there. So then we continue on into this section right here, which actually is the calendar, which we would use to register for classes. So right here, we can take, like, for example, let's register first for math. 241 right now registered there's only one section available from 4 to 6. You can register for engineering 100 here. There's 3 different sections available that we can drag wherever. Let's do the 10 a.m. class because we don't want to wake up too early. So then here's physics. You can register. There's only one class available from 11 to 2. And now we can graphically see that we've created a course conflict here with the overlapping classes. So you have to pick this one back up, put it up here. So now we have to get up earlier, but our course now works. And then here, engineering 198, we have to scroll down a bit here. And then, oh, should I drop this? Sorry. Oh yeah, okay, so if you're not very dexterous with a mouse, you can always just click on this to add it in. So then once you've registered for all your classes, you put get class CRNs, and now this will give you all the different sections that you've registered for, so you can easily then bring that to the current registration system and just have just a fast in-out and done registered process.
About 1 minute left.
All right.
So basically, some future goals that we have. Some of the features we kind of wanted to implement but couldn't due to time constraints, such as one would be integrating it with the DARS report so that if you know what your major is and you know what you've already done, you can find out what you still need to sign up for. Making an algorithm that would automatically build a schedule for you so you don't have to put it together like that. And then also putting in user preferences such as I don't want any classes before whatever time.
In terms of reflection, I think we can just speak for the group here that not only do we have to learn a lot of things about web design, such as the ins and outs of browsers and the different languages that we mentioned, the countless quirks of JavaScript that we can attest to, and compatibility between different operating systems and whatnot. But we also learned a lot about teamwork, things like group formation, project management as we all work together, and communications so that we made sure everything got done.
Any questions?
When can I have this?
It's still in private beta, so maybe for next semester.
How do you guys deal with the fact that some classes aren't going to start or in time?
Basically, we'll let you put it on the list, but if you try to drag it on the calendar, it just won't give you a place to drag it to because there is no place.
So when you click the button that says Get CRNs at the bottom, it'll give that in addition because it's just arranged, no problem.
So, like, will the system let you put two classes that are like at the same time, or does the user have to notice
so
that?
One of the things we wanted to do is we wanted to like make a little note, because if you saw at the top there was like a notification, there's like a little notification system. That's also flexible. That thing will also display like warnings in red with a little exclamation mark next to it. But unfortunately, we didn't really have time to implement that fully. Like if we had time, we would have made systems to check for overlapping boxes and stuff like that, or if you're trying to enroll in a new course, something like that, which we just didn't have time to implement.
So we do plan on keeping working on this.
Oh, man.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Has the university expressed interest in picking up this registration website?
We have done this completely independently of the university. On the first or second week, we found that there was a database publicly accessible. We've just done this all ourselves. We haven't made any contacts so far.
All right, George.
There are some courses that need like a lot of hassle. Like you gotta send an email, you gotta do like get a grade, or you gotta call somebody. Do you like? Does this affect how I can register for courses?
Currently, right now, this is just like a sort of a guided experience for how you would put your schedule together. Then it just gives you CRNs. If you find out that when you try to register for one of those CRNs that you need to expand upon it by like sending out an email or something, you can't do that. That's something you're probably going to have to take on your it's like self-accountability. But it's just like all sorts of different classes with their own individual requirements. We can't really realistically account for everything.
What sets this apart from the other website that's very commonly used, Schedule?
This website right here, well, I've never really used Schedule.
Well, this one is really centered on the schedule building experience, where you have courses with, if you're talking about the university where you have credit hours and whatnot. Some of our plan was to integrate the JAWS report, but you are working on a weekly thing where you only have the 5 days of the week that repeats for, say, 18 weeks in a semester, something like that, maybe 16. So since the focus on the schedule building as opposed to just organizing.
Any last questions?
How easy or how hard would it be to use this like at other universities?
Right now, it just pulls arbitrary data out of the Illinois database. If there's like another university that has like a similarly structured database, there's only minimal change tweaks that need to be made to account for that. But all it really needs to do is just get the data from a different place, and then it displays it the same.
Overall, it depends on how another university would format their data.
So right now, because it is all publicly available, you don't really need any permission from the university to do what you're doing whatsoever, correct?
Right.
Nice. Okay. Because then the next part is, so basically once you get your schedule done, you copy paste your CRNs into the regular old crappy web page that you have to deal with. But you do it once and you're done. Is that what you're
Yes.
getting at?
Well, the hope was that we wouldn't need the little jump where you take the CRNs and move it where we could directly integrate, but as it stands, the CRNs will get you functional.
Yeah.
My question is, what if you're like scheduling the class and the class is full? How does your website account for that, or does it not account for that?
Well, in the database, it tells you like whether or not a class is open or not. So we could put in checks that check whether or not the status of the class is open or closed.
Yeah, right now we actually store that information, but right now we didn't actually implement a way to notify the user. That would probably be something fairly easy to implement, and just ran out of time to do.
One more.
I have a recommendation. I think that when you sell it to the university, you should ask for first preference on classes.
All right, let's think. Hold on.